Okay, so this is the first craft in the holiday take and make crafts. It'll be the pinecone owl. This tutorial is going to be a little different than how I did the fall ones because I don't have an extra pine cone to do a demo from start to finish. The pine cones that we had ordered, I had to sort through them, and out of all of them, I think I was able to salvage like 47 pine cones. This pine cone actually happens to be one that I found in my stash. He actually has a little bit of a cinnamon scent to him. Anyway, so everybody's pine cones are going to be a little different. Some are smaller, larger, a little more different shaped. So we're just going to have to deal with what the shape and size of the pine cone that you have. The first thing we're going to start with is if you want to make the pine cone or the owl into an ornament, is before you glue anything on, you'll want to get the string attached. And if you look at your pine cones, most of the pine cones tend to lean like to one side. And so I think it's best if you choose the side that it leans towards as the front of your owl. It will work better because you will be attaching his feet to the bottom. And if he leans, the pine cone tends to look like it's going to fall over. But once you put the feet on, it actually helps him sit up. So once you figured out the front and back, you'll tie the string on, and you'll want to do that before you get his face glued on and all that. And so I've just run it through a top portion of the pine cone and tied it to where it basically comes out the back of your pine cone or your owl. After you get the string attached, I would go ahead and take and form his feet. And so you'll have two pieces of pipe cleaner that are about 2 inches long. Each one of those will be a foot. And I think the easiest way to do the foot is if you take your piece of pipe cleaner and you bend it in half, like that. So now it's a V, and now you're going to make it into a W. So now you're going to take that side, bend it in half, and that side, and bend it in half. And now you have a W. So that is one of his feet. And that is, each one of those will get glued onto the bottom, and I'll show the bottom of the pine cone and you can see how I've attached those. And then when you glue them, you'll have them stick out a little so that you can see his toes. So he should end up looking like he has 6 toes altogether. So you'll get those glued onto the bottom, and I would go ahead and at this point set your pine cone aside. Let the feet dry a little bit, especially if you're using more of a glue that's a little on the runny side. That's going to take a lot longer to set up, let's say, than if you have like a hot glue or the tacky glue, like the craft glue. Craft glue is a little thicker. It still would need some dry time, but not quite as much as like an Elmer's glue. So set that aside once you get his feet glued. Next, you're going to take this piece of paper, has all your patterns on it, and I've tried to help you out with your diagram on the written to kind of show you where all the pieces would fit. So you want to go ahead and get your patterns cut out, and then you're going to get them traced onto the felt. And just keep in mind that the larger part of the wing will have 2 pieces of dark felt, and then the smaller part of the wing will have 2 pieces of the light felt, and then the little white that will be part of his eyeballs, there'll be 2 of those. The rest just requires 1, and I've labeled them as what colored felt they would be traced onto. And it's easier if you trace your patterns using a ink pen or a felt tip marker. That way you can see it and it actually works better than trying to use a pencil. So once you get your patterns traced onto your felt, get your felt cut out and lay all your pieces out. And then you're gonna take, I'll have to use this. I can show you as far as they're on the owl. So I would go ahead and get the light piece of felt glued onto the dark piece for his wing, each of his wings. Get those glued on. Go ahead and assemble his face. Get all those pieces glued. And that way they can dry. You can even go ahead, the short piece of pipe cleaner for his nose, you can go ahead and glue it on. It can be glued on once the face is put on the pine cone, but so you can choose how you want to do that. But you can see here how everything comes together, even his little tail out the back. And once those, you can, again, if you're using like an Elmer's glue, it'll take a little while for those pieces to dry. And once they're dry, depending on the size of your pine cone, this is something you might want to determine before you go gluing your felt pieces together. If your pine cone's a little on the small side, I would say my pine cone's a little bit on the medium size. There were a few that were larger than this, and then quite a few that were smaller. You might have to cut these pieces down, adjust the size a little bit. You're just going to have to be the judge of that by holding them up to your pine cone. And if it's like, you know, the face that takes up, hides your whole pine cone, then you might want to trim those down a little bit. But obviously I don't know what size pine cone each of you get, so you're going to have to try to determine that on your own. So if you do have to trim them down, maybe do that first and then glue all your pieces together. But once all those pieces are glued and dry, then you can attach them to your your pine cone. And again, I would start with the face. Once you get the face where you want it, it'll be easier to determine then where you place your wings. And then don't forget his little tail out the back. And yeah, so once everything's glued together and it's dry, he should look pretty cute, no matter what size pine cone you have. And that's basically the tutorial for the pine cone owl. Good luck.